As soon as we removed the tower, we knew we were in trouble. Over 30 years worth of ocean beating had left this thing very worse for wear. Clearly this was a job for experts, and we found some of the best in the world just a few hundred miles down the road. We deliver the tower to Showboat Custom Coating in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The first step is to thoroughly clean the entire tower with a white Scotch-Brite pad, soft scrub, and water. Don't use the green or the red pads. They'll just scratch the metal. Stick with the white. However, in situations where the metal is extremely pitted, they may use the light gray pad, which is about 800 grit, compared to the white pad, which is about 1200 grit. Scrub as hard as you can here, because there's no chance of damaging the aluminum as long as you're using the white pad. Take your time during the cleanup and do it right. If you're methodical and systematic in your approach now, you'll have a much better result once the coating is applied. There's no way that you'll get all the old corrosion off with a single wipe. You have to work around the tower multiple times. There are no shortcuts to be had here. You have to put in the time to make sure that this surface is prepared properly. 90% of your preparation is perspiration. Once the metal is thoroughly clean, we move on to the second step, wet sanding the entire tower. The selection of sandpaper depends on the application. If it's for polished aluminum, use only 2000 grit to avoid scratches. If brushed aluminum, start with 1000 grit, then move up to 1200 and even 1500 grit. Always do a small sample area to get comfortable with your choice. Using wet-dry paper does not take off your anodizing unless you stay in one area for quite a long time. It's important to keep the pipe and the sandpaper nice and moist through the entire process. Working left to right and top to bottom, apply uniform sanding pressure on the entire piece. Just like with the first phase, everything's not going to come off in one wipe. It takes multiple passes around the entire piece to achieve the desired result. Don't forget to pay special attention to the corners and the welds. Also, if you run into areas where black smudges are coming off your metal, that's probably an area where there's no anodization at all. The best bet there is smooth it over and move on. Don't get tied down chasing those little black spots at this point. You can see on this area that extra sanding is required where the old string used to hold the canopy top in place. There are going to be little irregularities like that throughout the process. However, the goal here is to achieve uniform smoothness and uniform shine on the entire piece. Clearly, the crew here at Showboat Custom Coatings has hundreds of hours of experience with this kind of preparation. However, the materials and supplies are affordable enough to where you can do this on your own. It just requires the proper mindset and the proper dedication to uniform smoothing. The third step is to wash the entire tower with Blue Dawn dish soap. You want your mixture to be very soapy, 6 to 8 ounces of Dawn per gallon of water. Take the nozzle off the hose and make sure that water gets everywhere. Water's your friend at this point in time. The fourth and final step in preparation is to treat the entire tower with denatured alcohol. Denatured alcohol shows you how well you clean the metal in all the previous steps, and it also cleans the contaminants you can't see and dries the metal. Denatured alcohol is highly flammable and poisonous if consumed, so be careful, especially around windy conditions. You don't want this stuff spraying back into your face. By the end of this process, your rag should wipe clean. If it doesn't, go back and repeat the previous steps until it does. Proper dedication to perfection at this point will yield to a perfect product at the end. Now it's time to apply the SB230. You want to moisten your applicator and keep it moist throughout the process. And just like with the sanding, you want to work top to bottom, left to right for a good uniform finish. It helps to have a second person around to help spot for drips and bubbles. If you do get a drip, you have 30 minutes to fix it before the product hardens and begins to cure in 40 minutes. At this point, water is your worst enemy, either from the hose or from the sky. If the coating gets wet within the first 45 minutes, it'll be ruined, so plan your application accordingly. SB230 is a high-gloss, clear ceramic coating. It protects metals by chemically bonding to them, and it produces a clear, high-gloss finish that preserves and protects the metal. Once it's fully cured, it prevents oxygen and moisture from reaching the metal, eliminating further oxidation and corrosion. It maintains excellent bond strength even after exposure to high temperatures and substrate degradation. The finish on SB230 produces unmatched hardness and outstanding UV resistance. It keeps your metal looking new and enriches it for years to come. Notice the soft touch used in the application. You don't want to press hard at this point because that creates drips, runs, and streaks. Instead, lightly coat your finished metal. Once it's appealing to the eye, let it go. Also, this is a one-coat process, so don't touch an area once it's completed. Don't try to go over it or you'll just create more streaks, runs, and drips. If you miss a spot during the first 30 minutes of application, all you need to do is add a few drops of product to the applicator, cut in, and at this point it will self-level. If you discover a missed spot after curing, wait 24 hours and very carefully tag in that area. A good spotter will help you avoid that problem altogether. Notice here that he's stroking away from finished areas. This keeps any excess material from slopping onto areas that are already complete. Pay special attention to the welds, as this is where bubbles tend to form, especially if you press too hard. Curved pipe also presents a challenge. You'll want to maintain that smooth, light touch while getting uniform coverage on the entire area. Here's a nice before and after look. Once it looks good to the eye, let it be. A common mistake is attempting to do too much too quickly, and you're left with streaks and drips, which ruin the look of the entire piece. As you reach the end of a piece, be cautious not to let your applicator get any dirt or debris on it. If your rag becomes compromised, swap it out for a fresh one immediately. Notice that we're now stroking upwards to catch any drips or runs that may have developed throughout this application. For anodized aluminum, such as these black rod holders here, the process is the same, except you never ever want to sand anodized aluminum. Wash it with the Scotch-Brite pad, soft scrub, and water, then hit it with the denatured alcohol, and then it is ready to accept the SB230. Look at the shine on that. Hard to reach areas like the inside of the rod holders should be saved until the end of the project. There's likely small bits of debris in there that will foul up your applicator rag, so you want to make sure to do these last. If you've been working top to bottom as recommended, then this area should be your last stop. SB230 becomes tack-free after 60 minutes, dries in 24 hours, and takes 5 days to fully cure. Once fully cured, the only upkeep it will ever require is mild soap and water. You don't want to use any abrasives to clean the metal, as the coating could be damaged. The same procedure is applied to our foot pedestals and seat mounts, creating a uniform look across the entire boat. Showboat Custom Coating also offers SB305 Silver and SB300 White Ambient Cure ceramic coatings. These thicker coatings must be applied by brush and are useful in areas where the metal is especially pitted. What you see here is the end result of 30 years of ocean abuse with no maintenance at all. The SB305 will restore this to a high shine that should last us for another 3 decades. The SB300 white was applied to the top floor plate and control box to match the old color pattern. The process is relatively similar, only instead of the white scouring pad and soft scrub, they're using a DA grinder with 60 grit sandpaper to remove the old paint. One thing holds true though, there are no shortcuts other than good old-fashioned elbow grease. From the SB230 on the anodized aluminum to the SB305 on the tougher pieces, this tower came out looking great. We're super excited to put it in place on the Discover and get it all tightened down. We still have a lot to worry about on this boat, and there's going to be more challenges, but one thing we know we're not going to have to worry about is the finish on our aluminum tower. Fantastic work by David York and David York II of Showboat Custom Coatings. And special thanks are due to Pat Sullivan at Performance Marine Trading in Fort Lauderdale.